Hello and welcome to Guelph GradCast, the only podcast dedicated to bringing you real conversations with real University of Guelph grads. I'm your host, Ryan, and yes, I am also a Guelph grad. Today I'm joined by Emily Kalbfleisch. Emily graduated from the University of Guelph's Biomed program in 2023, and her strong passion for helping others would lead her to the speech and language pathology program at McMaster, which I'm happy to report she is only a few short weeks away from finishing. Welcome to the podcast, Emily.
Yeah, thank you.
And you're almost done. That's pretty exciting.
Yeah, I graduate at the end of July, so it's the beginning of July right now. A few more weeks left of classwork and then done.
Amazing. Um, so let's wind the clock back a little bit and kind of talk about your experience at the University of Guelph. I know the biomed program is somewhat well known, but what was your kind of introduction to it, and why were you driven, or what was your desire to choose that program and choose the University of Guelph?
Yeah, I knew coming out of high school that I wanted to work in likely healthcare, but I didn't know like what my career would look like at all. So I wanted a program that would like give me a good foundation so that if I wanted to do medicine or like I wanted to be an optometrist for a while, just something that would expose me to like different careers in healthcare. So I applied to a few like biomed and biomed adjacent programs, like health science programs at other universities. Um, and then the reason I chose Guelph was honestly, I knew it had like a strong biology reputation. I have a few family friends that wanted to be vets, so they all went to Guelph because it does have like a very established animal biology program. And then I toured the Guelph campus, and I honestly like a large part of why I went to Guelph was because of the campus. I really liked the vibe in Guelph that I just didn't feel when I was at some of the other like universities touring. It was very friendly and just the city of Guelph as well, like it was very welcoming to me. So that's why I ended up choosing it. And then I knew the program too. Like I had known a few people who had graduated from the program and they had good things to say. So
Yeah,
yeah.
that's a common thing I've heard multiple times. People say, I wasn't sure, I did a tour, and then I saw the campus, and that sealed the deal for me. So you're in
Yeah.
good company. And then once you kind of got here, what was kind of your experience with the program or just the school itself? Did it match your expectations, or was it exceeded, or was there anything that kind of surprised you?
Yeah, it really did. And I think one of my big takeaways, because I was so focused coming out of high school on like what school, like, is the program going to be prestigious enough for me to do all these things? Like, if I wanted to do a career in medicine. And I learned, like, towards the end of my undergrad that it doesn't really matter the program you take, but it really matters, like, what you make of it
Hmm.
and the opportunities you go out and find for yourself like that teaches you a lot. Like when I knew I was sold on speech pathology, it wasn't that a lot of my course content covered like speech pathology related topics. Like I could select some more neuroscience related courses and I was able to fit my prerequisites in. But it was like going out and finding professors who did neuroscience research and like trying to collaborate with them and also finding some speech pathologists in the community. There were a few in Guelph that I connected with and they were like very helpful and met with me. So I learned, yeah, towards the end that it's not all about the program you choose, but it is what you make of it and like finding those opportunities. But overall, the University of Guelph exceeded my expectations, I would say. I loved my time there. I loved the community I built, and it felt very supportive. Like in the biomed program, it is obviously like a slightly more competitive program because a lot of people are fighting for a spot in a post-secondary program. But the group of people I spent my time with in biomed were very supportive and like we were all very willing to help each other, which was
Hmm.
nice.
Yeah, especially in something like a program like you said, that is very competitive. Sometimes you need that support from each other, whether it's a professor
Yeah.
or just, another classmate. Was there anything in particular about the program that you particularly like enjoyed or connected with? I know you eventually found your path to language pathology, but I'm curious if there's anything else in the program that you were really interested in.
Yeah. Like the first year is very general in the biomed program. You basically take the same courses as all the other like first year science students, but that's actually nice because it gets you just a good introduction to all the topics. Um, Definitely like anyone that graduates from the biomed program will tell you how awesome the human anatomy lab is. I still think about it often, like what an opportunity that so like myself and my small group, we got to do a full dissection on a cadaver and you learn so much about anatomy, like doing that hands-on learning. Even like we've had some anatomy labs now at McMaster for speech pathology, and it's nothing like the opportunity you have at Guelph. Just to like be the person that's actually doing the dissections is a really cool opportunity. Um, and then I really liked the fourth year of my program because you do get to be more specific in your fourth year of biomed and really choose the electives that you're most interested in. So I remember I took a course on aging, which is really interesting because I want to work with an older population. And then also the opportunity to take some research courses in the fourth year of your undergrad was awesome. So I did like a literature review, and I was actually able to find a prof whose research aligned somewhat with speech pathology topics. So I did one on like a language condition that comes from dementia. So that was interesting exposure to the SLP field. And then I also just got to do like a full year research project in a lab, which was nice too, just to learn more about the research process and what that looks like. Like if people are considering doing like a research-based master's, trying to secure one of those fourth year research projects is so beneficial just to get exposure to the lab setting.
Hmm.
So
Yeah. And was it kind of some of the research that you did? Is that what kind of opened your eyes or kind of made you think like, oh, SLP is a path for me or it's something I'm interested in?
yeah, I would say it confirmed because I think in towards the end of third year, I found speech pathology and I kind of got my heart set on it. And then in fourth year, I just wanted to like there is definitely a part of it where you need to now boost your resume to get into those graduate programs. So I wanted some experiences that would lend themselves to speech pathology a bit. And I was able to do that because there is some flexibility in the biomed program too. Like aside from the just taking speech electives. Some of the other electives I took were in plant biology, and there's some of my favorite classes that I took just because it was an interest of mine and you're free to spend those electives on what you want. So I took some botany classes and I loved it too.
Yeah, it's always surprising too where you find that knowledge helps you later on because you think like, oh, I'm just doing this for fun, and then somehow you're able to kind of connect the two with something that seems separate. But yeah, it doesn't go to waste, that's for sure.
Absolutely.
And so like we've said it a few times, but what in your definition, like what is speech language pathology?
It's yeah, that's a good I've learned a lot more about it in the last 2 years. Honestly, starting the graduate program, I like knew so little about the job because it is such a wide scope of practice. So I would say to sum it up, what we do is we help anyone with communication across the entire lifespan. So it like starts with like really young kiddos and helping them if like people are late talkers, and then through school age, like assisting anyone who may have difficulties with their communication for any reason. Um, I'm pretty set on working with an adult population. So some examples are like after someone has a stroke, they may have impairments either in their communication, so their ability to talk, or swallowing. Like typically happens if the nerves or muscles you use to swallow are impaired. That's also in our scope of practice, which I didn't know going into the program. So a lot of hospital jobs, it's like doing swallowing assessments, making sure that the individual is safe to eat. Um, and then I'm also interested too for adults or for anyone, like any age, but working with people who have had any sort of brain injury that might impact the way they communicate. Um, and it's less like we kind of just think of it like the way you speak, but there's so much more involved in communication than just your ability to speak. So a lot of these people, it's not that like when they speak it's unclear, but it's like their ability to formulate the messages they want to say and get them out in an effective way is impaired. So just assisting them kind of in whatever way you can to make sure that they're still able to participate in their lives the way they want to.
Hmm.
Um, yeah, I don't know. It's exciting. I like all the different ways you can take speech pathology because I don't think my job will ever be boring.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
It's something, a lot of us have the privilege of being able to speak and speak effectively. And we kind of, until you're like, have that moment of impairment, you don't realize, how
Yeah.
debilitating it can be if you can't communicate, you can't speak, or if you're limited in some way. So I imagine, you're going to help a lot of people. Um, and so like once you kind of got into this new program, did you feel you were well prepared based on your undergrad?
I did. It's interesting because to get into SLP or speech pathology, you don't need to have a science undergrad, but you do need to have a lot of prerequisites that I just like naturally had to take through the biomed program. So you have to do physiology, you have to do anatomy, because when you do get into the program, it is a lot of like neuro talk, and like you do need to know the areas of the brain and also all those like muscles in here that we study for swallowing purposes. So I think if you didn't have a science background, that can be pretty overwhelming when you start the program. But I felt very well equipped from the biomed um, undergrad. And also, you have to take some classes, like you're required to take some prerequisites in linguistics and phonetics. But those were pretty easy to fit into my schedule while I was taking the biomed program. I was lucky that Guelph offered both of those classes. So, yeah, that
And now
worked
that you're
well.
getting so close to being done, if you're reflecting back on your time, is there anything that surprised you about the like learning about SLP? That kind of like, oh, I didn't think about that. I didn't. I know you mentioned kind of like the muscles and like the swallowing aspect of it, but was there anything else?
So when I went into the program, I kind of knew I wanted to work with adults already, but the only experience I had had with like adult speech pathology is a condition called aphasia. I just had like a family member develop aphasia, which is a language impairment. So the particular person I knew, it was like they had difficulty finding the words they wanted to say. So they knew exactly what they wanted to say all the time. They just like missed that connection in their brain between their mouth that like helped them get the words out. But I've just learned like there is so much more in the adult scope of practice that you help people with. Like aside from swallowing, there's also a lot of like receptive language, people's ability to listen and understand what you're saying. And then also we do some executive functioning as well, which overlaps with an occupational therapist role too. So it's like things like time management and attention and decision making and all those like kind of difficult skills that your brain needs to know how to do to just like live a functional life. So we can also help people with those, if you can just tie it back to communication. And also, I'm just like learning like communication is so broad. Communication doesn't have to be verbal. Like there are so many ways we all know how to communicate. So it's just like establishing the most functional means of communication you can. We got to do some field trips actually recently in school to there's a clinic in Hamilton called the Technology Access Clinic. So they all do augmentative and alternative communication. So for people that maybe can't speak or have difficulty speaking, what other ways can we find for them to communicate? So there's different like devices you can explore. And that was super interesting because I like technology, so I could see myself maybe doing something in that realm as well.
And so, you mentioned kind of working with adults. Is that, your kind of next step, your next goal is to kind of start working in the field?
Yeah, so like obviously I finished classes at the end of July, and then we have to write a licensing exam in October. So I've been looking at jobs. I haven't secured one yet, but there are jobs out there, which makes me feel good. So I haven't quite decided if I'm gonna get a job because you can get a provisional license before October, or if I'll just wait till after the exam and then find a job. But yeah, it's
Nice.
exciting. It's a little scary because I have this identity of being a student for such a long time, and now that's changing. But I am excited to get a job as an SLP.
Yes, well, best of luck. I know I was always
Yeah.
excited to start working, and then it's funny that this funny thing happens. Like you're working for a little while, and you look back, and like, I miss being a student because it's different. It
Yes,
is very different. It's hard as it is. The real world is a little bit harder. It's
I know.
different.
Yeah, I finished a placement last week, and then I went back to school actually on Monday this week, and I was like, when again will I have a break in my day from 12 till 4? Like I just
Yeah,
don't have classes during that time. I sat outside and I did my schoolwork, and I love that.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
And I know you talked about we talked about at the beginning about the University of Guelph and the campus and the community. Um, was there a particular spot or a particular place on campus that you have a really fond memories of, or maybe a favorite place?
There's so many actually. I was in Guelph yesterday and I drove down Gordon and I was like, oh, the nostalgia. Um, Definitely part of part of my love for Guelph came from in my second year, I think. I got a job with like the physical resources department, and I was working with the arborist on campus doing all of the tree work. So we did some work in the arboretum and on the main campus. And so the arboretum really has a special spot in my heart. Like I just can't believe there's such a big green space right beside campus, and it's I wish I took more advantage of it in my undergrad actually.
Hmm.
Um, and then just I love like my study spots. I actually used to study in the business building a lot, even though I'm not a business student, but I
Oh
just
no,
liked, I know, I don't tell them maybe, but it was a
the
beautiful
secret's out.
building. I know. McDonald Hall, I think it was. But yeah, just honestly, I have from doing the tree work, there was like so many little pockets of the campus that we worked in, and I love gardening, and it's just a very green campus. So there are some areas I really like the gardens. I recommend everyone take a little walk around the gardens there in the summer. It's very spectacular the amount of work they put into it.
Yeah, I was a drama kid, so there was a theater in McKinnon, and there was like a spot kind of in the basement. That was like a chill spot that we'd always hang out and study. And yeah, I miss that.
Yeah. Yeah. I
Um,
like the bull ring. Like I like it all.
mhm,
Yeah.
for sure. And so like you've kind of been away for a little while, and do you still find yourself? I know we just kind of mentioned it, but like thinking like fondly, like missing it a little bit, like missing your time at Guelph.
Big time. Yeah. I'm still in touch with some of the roommates that I had there and like a lot of just the friends I met through the biomed program. And whenever I'm back in Guelph, I do go back and visit the campus just because I like it.
Hmm.
Yeah,
It's really nice too because as you go through Guelph, it's not like you have to go out of your way. Like it's kind of right in the center of everything, and you can,
totally.
take a quick stop by. And so you keep in touch with some of your friends. Do you keep in touch with any kind of professors or come other people from your program?
Yeah, not like it's not frequent communication, but I will like occasionally email the professors. There was two that I did the research projects that really helped me get into my graduate program. Like they were the people I used for reference letters. So I just got to know them the best. And then just staff that I met through working at the University of Guelph, like if I ever ran into them, it would immediately be like a nice, reconnection.
Do you find now that you could like run into people that maybe went to Guelph or know about Guelph, or there's like a positive connection when they know that you went to Guelph?
For sure. That happens like all the time at McMaster. There aren't a ton of, there's a few golf grads actually in my current program, but when you're out and about and you meet someone and, oh my gosh, we're both Griffins, it is like an immediate close connection, sort of.
Hmm. Yeah, it is, and
Yeah.
it's nice too that Guelph has like such a positive reputation. It's not, at least not that I know of. I don't think we have any really serious rivalries with any schools or any kind of negative connotation. It's not like, oh, you went to Guelph. Oh, you know what I mean? There's not this weird pause.
Yes.
There's always usually tends to be a very positive reception. And so, kind of thinking about other people considering the program, is there any kind of advice that you might have for someone who wants to do the program or maybe wants to follow a similar path to you?
Yeah, I think if you find that you're like in a similar position as me and you felt like maybe you wanted to work in healthcare or just work in science or with people in some capacity, it is like a great foundational program. I can strongly recommend it because it really covers your bases in terms of prerequisites. Like the program just sets you up well for like studying post grad. Um, and then also just what I was saying, where like if you find something you're passionate about, go out and like seek opportunities to get more involved in that field, whether it's volunteering or if you can, do some research in something you're interested in. Like, I think it's a missed opportunity if you don't do those things while you're at Guelph because they're not explicitly like handed to you, but you are able to find those opportunities if you work hard enough. And so I strongly recommend that. But as a whole, it is like a really good foundational program.
Hmm. And we kind of talked a little bit too about the human anatomy lab. I imagine that could be kind of a daunting thing. Were you anxious about doing it, or did you, felt well prepared, and how was that process? Did they kind of walk you through it in a way that felt like comfortable as best as it could?
Yeah, I was lucky because my roommate was in the same program and she took the class the semester before me, so she was able to like really walk me through it. And if you don't want to do the cadaver dissection, you don't have to. Like there is alternative courses that you can take if you don't want to, see bodies in that form, then that's okay. But it's a very well run lab. You have a group and you get to know your group first. And like before you see the cadavers in person, you always see like pictures in class first. So you kind of know what it's gonna look like. So it's just takes the like it's not scary when you see the bodies. Um, yeah, it's just a very cool experience. And it sounds intimidating before you start for sure. But when you get in there and like, it's nice that you have that kind of team environment to do everything in as well. So it doesn't feel like you're ever alone or in charge of a specific task.
Hmm. And I imagine, having the actual interaction with the anatomy is important as opposed to reading in a textbook because it's always different than what you expect.
For sure. And like if you're gonna do a career in medicine where you're gonna see a lot of bodies, like you need to, it's a good way to get comfortable with that before you are seeing patients, you know?
Uh-huh. It's a good test case too. So, if you think you can handle it and then maybe you can't, and you're like, okay, maybe this isn't for me. Or maybe you're like, hey, this isn't as bad as I thought it would be. I'm okay.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Um, well, I know you're kind of like a busy person. Is there anything else you really want to touch on before we kind of wrap things up, or anything you want to leave the audience with or reflect on of your time at the University of Guelph?
I would just say get involved in whatever you can. Like if you are starting at Guelph, if you can join a club or if you can get a part-time job on campus or anything like that, it really helps you just feel more like I almost feel now that I have a sense of ownership of
Uh-huh.
my like over the campus because it was such a like a meaningful place to me. And so yeah, if you can just find ways to get involved during your time, I think it's really gonna help maximize the experience and also just the people you meet at Guelph. There that friendly manner stayed the whole time. Like people are just very lovely there, which makes the university experience better for sure.
Yeah, for sure. Especially, it's a whole new experience. Like you're on your own. You're kind of like basically you do have professors, but it's very different than high school where, it's very directed, where this is kind of like, here's the assignment, here's the paperwork, but if you don't do it, that's on you, so you
Yeah,
kind of have to, having that support system, I'm sure it was really appreciated.
for
Um,
sure. Yeah, that's like one of the most important reasons why you need people, to make some friendships in your class is just to stay on top of the assignments.
uh-huh.
It's not even like if you need help with them. It's just it's so much to manage when you're coming out of high school and then all of a sudden you're in charge of submitting everything on time and knowing when all the projects are due and stuff, so just having people to hold you accountable in that respect is very helpful.
Or maybe just ask a question like, hey, do you understand this? Because I don't get it. Or can you teach me
Yes,
about this? And kind of maybe just the conversation going through it, maybe you guys both figure it
for
out.
sure. That
So
was
yeah,
something I missed the most when it was COVID and we were all at home because I was like, there's nothing better than when you finish an exam and you feel like it didn't go great, but then you can turn to the person beside you and go, oof, that was a tough one.
yeah,
But then when you're at home, you don't get that. So you're just like, did everyone else find that hard?
yeah. Or at least you get some
Yeah.
confirmation like, oh, wait, I wasn't wrong. Maybe I did get that answer right.
Yeah. Yeah.
But, well, I want to thank you so much for taking the time to chat with me, Emily. I really appreciate it.
Oh,
Um,
happy to.
If you like what you heard today, please like and subscribe to wherever you get your podcasts. Maybe drop us a review. We really appreciate that. Ideally, positive. I can't tell you what to say, but if it's positive, that would be really appreciated. If you want the most up-to-date information about the University of Guelph, be sure to follow us on all our socials, or you can visit us at uofguelph.ca, and I'll put all the links in the show notes. Our show's theme music is actually by Paige Rutledge, who is also a University of Guelph grad, and we'll be back soon with another conversation with another Guelph grad. Till next time, thank you so much for listening, and thank you again, Emily. I really appreciate it.